Welcome to the Life Mindset Mentor Class. This is the show that gives you practical spiritual tools that you need every week to very practically dominate stress, anxiety, fear, and depression. We will give you the basic components of a powerful mindset and we make it as easy as ABC for more life, more peace, and definitely more power. I am your host, Lady Ketura, and co hosting with me is the amazing.
Boom. Zeno el fuego de Christ pneumatologist.
And we are coming to you live from the beautiful twin island of Trinidad and Tobago. In today's episode, we'll be touching on a topic that I think we could safely say is part of the foundation of your priesthood, or even those who are not walking as priests or don't understand the priesthood. This is very pertinent to everyone because we're talking about the importance of guarding your mind. Now, saying I grew up in a religious system where we were taught that we need to watch what you watch on TV,
Hmm.
watch what you listen to, the type of music. In my age, in my era, there was songs like Eminem and um 50 Cent and all these guys coming out, and we were told that we need to protect our ears and what we're listening to.
Yeah.
And then on the TV, we couldn't watch things like Harry Potter and other shows that involved witchcraft and all of these different things. And what I later on learned is that we were told not to watch those things for all the wrong reasons.
Hmm. Right.
We were told not to watch it because some spirit may come upon you, and you were just told that it will have a bad influence on you, and whatever the case is. But today, we're going to talk about the importance of guarding your mind, not for all the wrong reasons, but for all the right reasons. And the right reasons will mean that, as you have shared in previous episodes, that when in the beginning the breath of life, Yahweh Elohim, breathed into the Adam, and he breathing into the Adam made the Adam a multiplication of what he is. And one of the Adam's responsibility, this is like a long story short, was to fill the creation with life, which is to give thought to them and not use the creation to give him thought. And not many people understand this and how it affects their entire life. When I say the entire life, what many people don't understand, and this is the context of today's episode, is that you may be filling your thoughts or your mind, not guarding your mind, by filling your mind with a lot of different doctrines, a lot of different voices that you are accepting as true and real. And then in doing so, become the image and likeness of it unknowingly, and then replicate exactly what they are.
Hmm.
Sometimes not sometimes, because you have no control of how far the branches of a tree will grow, you may end up in a position where things may be spiraling in your life and you don't understand why I can't get these reins on. And one of the main reasons that may be happening is because you are not guarding your thoughts, because you are meant to be a tree of life and not receiving life from others. So, the question I'm going to start today's episode with saying, based on what we have studied so far, I mean, we only have a short time for this episode. Why would you say is the most important reason for guarding your mind?
Well, I think that one of the first of all, the way guarding your heart and guarding your mind has been spoken about in our modern day Christianity is first of all we need to put it we need to call it out as a hoax,
Mm,
right? Because it pretty much contravenes what we are made to do, right? So in our modern day Christianity, we have been taught, just as you rightfully pointed out just now, we have been taught that it's necessary to actually protect yourself from watching all of these things, watching Harry Potter and watching this type of movie and that type of movie. And what it has done in particular is actually giving you the indication or telling you in your mind, it's indirectly telling you that you need to protect yourself because you're a victim
Yeah.
right? And you are weak. You have no control over yourself. These things can come in and dominate you because you are just a weakling, and that is contrary to the actual context of Scripture. If you actually say that you are a believer in Christ Jesus,
Definitely.
yeah, the purpose of God in your heart and the context of God in your heart here in Scripture is with regards to, you likely began to talk about it there just now. It's actually specific to making the decisions to choose your thoughts on your own. Right? So as you rightfully identified, man was actually created breath into dust, and therefore he was created to be the source of life. And instead of when he made a decision in the garden, instead of continuing to be the source of life, he began to he became a receiver of life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in this case, this principle of reception of source and dependency is simply translated in being a source means that you understand what you are and who you are, and you make decisions intelligently from what you understand and know yourself to be.
Right.
Whilst being a receiver of life here will translate into you not knowing what you are, and so you are allowing the environment and people to cultivate your mind.
I love how you put that, allowing people to cultivate your mind. We are meant to be cultivators. We are meant to be the gardeners. Rather than us being the gardeners, what's taking place is other people is cultivating our garden
Yeah.
for us.
So instead of actually making decisions on our own based on what we possess, we allow others to tell us what to think. All right. And so if you look at it from that perspective, then you'd see that there is no issue with watching this movie and that movie. The movie is not the issue.
Mm-hmm.
The real question is, are you in particular, are you choosing your logic, or are you being given your logic? Are you being programmed into a logic?
Wow. It's how you say programmed into our logic, because not many people understand that we. So when you say being programmed into your logic, what I'm actually seeing is robots, like literally being like a chip being inserted into your mind, and you're
Right.
being told how to think, how to act, how to behave, how to respond to this.
You know what?
It's almost robotical.
What you mentioned there is actually very putting onto something going on here today in the world, where in the presence of the vaccines in the world today, everybody is actually in panic that there could be a scheme to actually implant chips into people's bodies and to begin to control them.
Mm-hmm.
And the persons who actually speak from that perspective, they speak from the victim perspective. They
Right.
speak from the perspective that westernized church has actually trained us to live in, which is we live from the perspective where we allow things to cultivate us instead of we making a decision to cultivate the world, to cultivate our environment.
And so they're being fear driven.
Well, the only reason why you mean fear driven, fear in particular is an emotion that is based on the physics of something intruding upon you, something imposing itself upon you, and you
Mm-hmm.
are not going to be able to stop it. Right? Now, this in particular, the whole idea of having chips in your body, even in this modern day crisis, because it is somewhat of a mental crisis that's taking place. A mental crisis with the fear of vaccines and how vaccines would actually impact your body if this chip is placed into you. And little do people know is that according to research at the International Institute of Pneumatology, that your spirit does not work like that. Your spirit is designed to be self-existent and therefore self-determining. And therefore, if it is self-existent and therefore self-determining, then we must understand that when if and when we are functioning from our spirit, It simply requires that we first understand who and what we are. Not only who we are, but what we are and how we function.
Mm-hmm.
And once we understand what we are, then we actually build our character by choice to discipline ourselves and discipline our minds to live from what we are.
So,
If
mm-hmm,
that is the once that is the case, it doesn't matter whether something enters your body or not.
that will
By
have no control over you.
by the physics of your spirit, your discipline to who and what you are, and your knowledge of what you are, enables you to discern thoughts that are not that are coming that are not from your spirit, because you have been trained to live from what you are.
Yeah.
You are by nature self-determining, and if you actually learn to live from your self-determination, then even if a chip is implanted into you, it will not control you. Actually, you'll be able to identify its presence. And even if that is the case, once you begin to function from the self-determination of your energy, you will be able to overpower it and overcome it.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying, I'm gathering from what you're saying, is that the same mechanics that will apply to a snake bite, as one of the apostles referenced, where it will do you no harm, or when you put like harmful stuff into your temple,
Right.
is these same mechanics is going to apply in a situation like that,
Listen
where
to
it
me.
is literally dust. It is nothing.
Listen to me. The whole Bible, especially in the gospel message, is all about believing.
Mm-hmm.
The mere fact that you are told that you need to believe points very strongly that your manifestation of what you have been told will follow is based on your self-determination. Pay attention to
Okay.
what I just said there. Everything that you were taught, everything that this gospel says is true. It stands upon the primary perspective or the primary requirement of your belief that you must believe. And if anything, any and everything that stands upon your belief is standing upon your self-determination, your decision, your decision to actually take it as your logic or as your truth is the deciding factor for manifestation. Now, if the very gospel in
So what I'm
particular,
getting is that. Mhm.
no, I'm saying if the very gospel in particular stands upon the power of self-determination, why do you think a chip in your body? If you do know about your spirit, and for persons who are listening to this, if you are not aware of what I'm saying, then you need to educate yourself on your spirit, which is why the International Institute of Pneumatology exists. You need to educate yourself on your spirit and the physics of your spirit, because the only way you submit, even people who look at the whole cases of demonic possession, if you research that and understand the self-determination of your spirit, no devil or no demon takes over someone. It's because the person has not self-determined. They have not actually functioned in self-determination and chosen what they believe. And so
Right.
they're allowing something else to tell them what to believe.
To tell them how to think and how to feel as well towards it.
It doesn't matter whether it's technology, it's evil spirits, it's your father and your mother, your family, your friends, the government, vaccines. It does not matter. All of this stands upon your nature of your spirit, which is self-existent and therefore self-determining. There is not absolutely nothing that can control you. If you do fear being controlled, then it says very clearly that you have not chosen, you have not done your due diligence to come to an understanding as to what you are and how you function, or to choose your reference point for identity, so that you cannot be controlled because you're constantly holding your spirit and your mind responsible to a principle.
Awesome. So on that note, then we're gonna pause for just a few seconds. We're just gonna take a few seconds break, and we'll be right back. When we return, we will continue sharing with you The importance of guiding your heart because you are self determining. And once you come into the understanding of this, nothing can do you any harm. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Life Mindset Mentorcast, the podcast that gives you the tools that you need every week to very practically dominate stress, anxiety, fear, and depression. Verified by pragmatic and experimental research of the Zinke Kitsura International Institute of Pneumatology. We give you the basic components of a powerful mindset. We make it as easy as A, B, C. You can also find content by seeing Anketuro through www.internationalinstituteofpneumatology.com. To access weekly episodes of this podcast, other resources, and mentorship, become a Silver Star member at www.patreon.com/scene_ale_fuego. More life, more peace, more power. Okay, so we are back. So before we went on the break, we were given some context as to why things cannot do you any harm. And as the whole theme of these podcasts are centered around dealing with panic and anxiety and assisting those who are dealing with issues, mental issues, all as a result of fear and being driven by the thoughts of something external of themselves. So then you were sharing a really good point there on coming into the understanding of your spirit. Because once you understand that, then it means that you can take governance over the things around you and
Oh,
in you,
oh
for that
yes, you
matter.
can. Oh yes, you can. You see, it's because of the power of the nature of your spirit, the physics of your spirit, which is based on God's name in the scriptures. The physics of your spirit to be self-existent and therefore self-determining. There is a very, very strong theme in the scriptures for you to be careful with regards to what you believe. Because
Mm-hmm.
whatever you believe, you are going to reproduce. Because your spirit is a creator spirit. Right? In the context of the Garden of Eden, everything in the garden stands upon the common law in the Garden of Eden as everything reproducing after its own kind. And therefore, whatever your father is or God is, it is seen as you being a reproduction after your own kind. Reproduction after its own kind, or
Mm-hmm.
God's own kind. Therefore, because of the self determining capacity of your energy and of your mind and your heart, you will do well to choose what source of information that you are tuning into and do well to ensure that the information you're choosing, that you're listening to, is not actually cultivating your heart or cultivating your mind.
Right.
Because because you have self-determining capacity, whatever you validate, your self-determination can either work for you or work against you.
Mm-hmm. I can see how that works, where a practical example would be someone who I've seen this a lot, even within my circles, people who occupy their days and time intensely glued to the news.
Hmm.
And therefore, in doing that, they are filling their spirits, their thoughts, with the thoughts of whoever is broadcasting this thing. And it's not to say that it's bad, but because they're making that a priority, they now make that an authority over themselves. And then there comes a come up when they're doing that, they find themselves in situations where they're scared, anxious in different situations, and unable to reason and come to logical deductions as to what is taking place around them. And
Right.
that's because they limit themselves to the mindset of that. So it's like they make that a reference point, like a determining factor as to how they see life and how they think and how they feel. And you would notice in people who do that, that there's very little reasoning that you can get out of them because they have become obsessed with it and therefore filled with the energy of it and the thoughts of it and not functioning, no longer functioning from a governor mindset. Another practical example would be those who are tuned into doctrines, religious doctrines, that doctrines of being a sinner and needing God's grace, and the doctrines where you have to pray and go before the throne and beg God. You would notice people who fill themselves with those thoughts as well are the ones who live the most victim like lives, where they themselves are always begging and pleading God to help them here, and they can't reason and make logical deductions to get themselves out of situations.
Right.
And what they're also doing, and this is what I'm sharing, these examples I'm sharing is not to discredit or diminish anyone in any form or fashion. It's just for the purpose of identifying it so that we can bring about change. So when you do that, when you fill yourself with like the religious doctrines that are sin driven and driven around being a victim and all of these different thoughts, and not referencing the breath in you, not living from that consciousness or that awareness, what they don't understand is that they make that also their reference point, and they're the ones who will always need a pastor
Hmm.
to pray for them and always need to go to the elder. They will not be able to function self existently and self determine themselves out of whatever they are in.
And even
That's
if
what
you go ahead.
that's what the institute has coined codependency. They now become dependent on something external to give them life and to give them thought. Go ahead.
I think one of the things in particular that I would like to say before we wrap this up is that it is not taught that even in the Bible that all of creation is designed with a hierarchy of authority, and therefore there is, if we use the terms of modern science, there are frequencies, and frequencies that are actually more authoritative frequencies. And in the hierarchy in particular, man was created to be at the top of it through God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which means that what he what he decides is what is established, and therefore all other frequencies pretty much manifest what he says because he is the highest frequency in God.
Right.
When man fell from this from this hierarchy, and he began to no longer compare himself or use God as a point of comparison for himself, he began to use a tree. The message of that narrative is that he changed his reference point, and therefore he became the image and likeness of whatever he uses his reference point, and therefore resonating on the same frequency with that creation.
Okay.
That would mean that if for example he is using a tree, and let's say there are um, he's using this tree, and there is something in particular that's stronger than the tree in the hierarchy of authority in all of creation. That would mean that he allowing that tree to cultivate his mind causes his spirit to resonate, to have a frequency that is specific, that is mirroring and reflecting the spiritual the frequency of authority of that particular tree or that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anything in creation that is stronger than that tree, that is resonating on a stronger frequency of that tree, man has just now subjected himself to be governed by those frequencies, by the creation as well as by the frequency. So if that is not put into check, you are going to need someone to come to pray for you, because you simply don't have the spiritual authority that you were given. You are voluntarily subduing your spiritual authority to
Mm-hmm.
another creation instead of actually functioning from the raw power of the Spirit of God in you.
Indeed. Wow. So if so, for this is actually bringing this episode to a close. We did say about 20 minutes, but just cross the line over a little bit. So
Hmm.
for those who are listening and they are interested in finding themselves out of that lower frequency, what will be your last words as we bring the episode to a close to them? What will be your words of encouragement?
Well, number one, cease and desist from allowing things to cultivate your mind and to tell you what is true and to tell you what is not true. And pay more attention to understanding your spirit, understanding the supremacy of your spirit, according to the writer of Hebrews and the Psalm in Psalm 8. Pay more attention to understanding the supremacy of your spirit. And once you understand the supremacy of your spirit, it doesn't matter who does what. It doesn't matter whether it's vaccine or no vaccine. The supremacy of your spirit will resonate on a higher frequency, and therefore that is equal to wind to you. You don't get vexed with the wind. You allow others to do what they want to do, and the supremacy of your spirit is your protection. It's your innate protection. So stop and consider.
Awesome. So I pray that was helpful, and if it has been, please feel free to share with us in the chat and let us know how this impacts you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Zane. So this brings us to the end of today's episode. This is the Life Mindset Mentorcast. This particular podcast is usually available for Patreons. If you're interested, you can check out www.patreon.com/Zane_Ale_Fuego. We decided to put it out there to share this episode with the general public. This is usually within the confines of a membership platform. So this is the show. This podcast, is a show that gives you practical spiritual tools that you need every week to very practically dominate stress, anxiety, fear, and depression. In this, we give you the basic components of a powerful mindset, and we make it as easy as A, B, C for more life, more peace, and more power. I am your host, Lady Katura, and co-hosting with me is
Zane El Fuego, the Christ pneumatologist. Boom.
and Bodo.